we should be going.
It's on time, you can get to work by 9 and start your slaving job to get your pay. If you ever get annoyed, look at me, I'm self-employed. I love to work at nothing all day, and we've been taking care of business every day. Taking care of business every way. We've been taking care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business, and I've been working overtime. Work out.
Okay, guys, we are here. We're live. As you can see, we've got Steve Krafcisin with us from former Iowa Hawkeye, who went to the Final Four in 1980, and I have stories about that. And not to mention, that was the last time an Iowa Hawkeye team has been to the Final Four. Although Tom Davis's first year, he almost made it.
Oh, we're going to go back, Dean. We got Ben McCollum. So.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So let me get my business out of the way, guys. Thank you for the 503 subscribers. Please smash the button. Let's get it higher. Let's subscribe. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Please add comments during the show here. Steve, we are live, so Steve can comment on anything you want to ask him about or make a comment on. Just keep it clean.
Sure.
All right. I just kind of wanted to start the show out because I was very interested to find out that Ben McCollum played for you.
Yes.
At NIACC. And by the way, my sister-in-law played at NIACC too.
No.
Anyhow, okay. I just kind of want to know what he was like as a player. You got any good stories? And did maybe some of his coaching philosophy did he get from you?
Well, my philosophy was throw it inside because we had pretty good big guys. And so he learned how to pass a little bit. But Ben, from Storm Lake St. Mary's, and he was all state, just a fire plug, firecracker kind of kid that just loved competition and loved taking chances and was very good. He could really shoot the ball, and I liked a lot guys that can really shoot it, catch and shoot. And then because he was at a small school where he pretty much had to do everything. He had to rebound the ball. He had to dribble it up the floor. He had to shoot it. He had to go play D. He had to rebound, the same thing all the time. And he loved to take it into the, like a lot of guards do. Now they're thinking like, you got to take it to the basket and either make it or get fouled. And Ben, there's an adjustment to go from small school Iowa to Iowa JUCO, where you're playing against some guys from Florida, Georgia, Texas, all over, and very good players. And I would always say Ben loved to go into the trees. Always wanted, and you can't go in there all the time, Ben, because you're going to get hit, and the referee's going to say, "Yeah, get up." And and so he learned that, and but just competitive. And I had some really good kids that time also, and Ben's family's great and a lot of support, and just a hard-nosed kid who wanted, when we first started talking about where he wanted to go to school after NIACC, Northwest Missouri State was the place he wanted to go. And I can't remember what the drive was there, what the connection was there, and I forget it. And but he was I don't think he talked to anybody, because I had people calling and looking at him, NAIA schools, D2s, and he was all set to go to Northwest Missouri.
Okay. All right. Okay. I just kind of wanted to get a feel for that. I kind of like to go back and talk a little bit about, you, as was mentioned earlier, you went to North Carolina before you chose Iowa.
Yep.
And what I wanted to really talk about here is what it was like to play for two legends, Lute Olson, Dean Smith, and then we brought up Johnny Orr as you were assistant on his team, and what it was like is those are three of the biggest legends in my mind. Not the biggest, but they're three of the biggest.
Very, very fortunate. We can talk about many different aspects of why I went to North Carolina, but Dean Smith was very was great. Obviously, didn't have the 30-second shot clock or whatever it is, 35 or 30. Didn't have that. Didn't have the 3-point line. Phil Ford was the originator of the Ford Corners. There, he was an Olympic coach. Very, very, like you're looking at him now. That's how he came to practice without the suit coat. But he would come with a button-down shirt, tie, most of the time, or if it was coaching gear with lapels and stuff like that. But very, didn't raise his hand raise his mouth, raise his voice very often at all. The only time I remember him being upset was we were at practice, and Tommy Lagarde was our starting center, who was a tremendous player, a senior from Michigan, and Tom Zalagaris was also a year younger than Tommy, and they got in a fight in practice, or they threw punches, or not very much happened, and Coach Smith went ballistic. And he had them hold hands. Now imagine now doing this now. He had them hold hands and run up and down all the steps at Carmichael Auditorium until practice was over. And the other time was in the preseason. We had a meal, a team meal the night before October 15th, which was the start of practice. And very kind of formal in the Carolina Inn Hotel there in Chapel Hill. And somehow two guys, I think it was Rich Yoniker and Michael Corrin maybe, weren't told that they had to wear a suit jacket and tie to the meal. And they show up without it and sit down. And Coach Smith, like the coaches were on a stage kind of. Coach Smith had his meal was already there. He got up there and said something about, never swore, about couldn't you understand why didn't the seniors develop you or make sure you were going to have a jacket on, and threw his food. And we're like, holy crap, this is the way to start the season. But very, but everything had very businesslike. We had an unbelievable team. And it was probably a pretty unique situation where, you had Tommy Lagarde, you had Phil Ford, you had John Kuster, you had Walter Davis. Michael Corrin was a freshman. He might have made All-American his freshman year. We had Dudley Bradley. We didn't need a whole lot of drive. We just needed to make sure we were on the right path, it seemed like. And we had 7 pretty talented freshmen in my class. And to go 28-5, we didn't talk very much about scouting reports. Everything we did in practice, for those 2 days or 3 days, was geared towards stopping pick and roll or whatever it was that the other team did better. And it was kind of Coach Smith's kind of philosophy of, hey, whatever you're going to do, you're going to see it. We're not just going to sit down and talk about it. You've already defended it, and just had very big confidence in us, but very businesslike and obviously tremendous. And then to go to Lute was pretty much one of the things I would say is he's the man in charge. He's the dude. Dean was the dude, but Lute just had a way. Coach Olson it's hard to call him Lute. Coach Olson was pretty, I would say, demanding, because again, you're talking about no shot clock, no 3-point shot. Every possession was brutal. You couldn't screw it up. You had to execute, and if you could do it over and over and over again. But he was the man. We would have preseason pickup games, and the coaches aren't supposed to watch, and it was just free time or preseason, and out of nowhere you would hear this voice somewhere at the old field house, like haunting you, saying, "Steve, don't put the ball on the floor," and you're just looking around. And they're like, okay, or he's got a camera. I don't know if they made cameras like that yet, but very much in charge. He was, the dude, and he loved that. he loved that total performance chart.
Yeah.
Where it was
He was
all
the
based
first
on
analytic. He was like an analytical guy.
Very, very. And the thing that I got, because I'm obviously very talkative, as you can tell, and emotional. I was a very emotional player. I loved playing. I would be upset with. I never talked to Coach about it, but I talked to Roz and Coach McAndrews about how unfair the chart was because it put more emphasis on steals. And in my mind, and Kevin Boyle knew he had seniors or juniors, behind him where he could go take more chances. Well, you got rewarded for that because we knew we had to have his back on it. And sometimes, most of the time I finished second or third in the performance chart, and I just, frick. I was like, come on.
Don't post players also get more turnovers because they got the ball in traffic?
Oh, well, we weren't allowed to dribble. So that was, I mean, if we took a dribble, you almost looked at the bench like, are you coming out?
Yeah, because Lute's
I wouldn't have done that. I would have I would ignore Lute.
Yeah, Lute's chart. If you got an assist, you got a point.
Yes.
If you got a steal, you got a point. If you got a turnover, you subtracted a point.
Yeah.
Well,
it was. You put definitely a premium on not turning it over. I mean, that was like, again, when we played Michigan State at home, I think the Final Four year maybe the next year, senior year, he held it. It was like 21-18 at half.
Yeah, Judd Heathcote held it. Yeah, that was the year after. That was the year after Magic Johnson left.
Yeah.
So, question for you on that one, just out of nowhere.
Sure.
Would the shot clock come in because of Lute? Because that's not the only game where you guys tried to hold the ball.
Right. Oh, right. And it was, and I dealt with that. Not dealt with that, but I also experienced that in North Carolina. Whenever we got a lead in the second half, we went to it and made them come out.
Just think, Steve, you played with two guys, ran the four corners that had Phil Ford and Ronnie Lester running the four corners. I remember watching Ronnie Lester against Ohio State. Fred Taylor's announcing. It's Kelvin Ramsey versus Ronnie Lester, and Ronnie Lester just ate Kelvin Ramsey up. And you guys had like a 5-point lead with 8 minutes to go, and Ronnie Lester almost dribbled the clock out.
Yes, that's one of the few. When I think about that, it's one of the few bus rides back to the airport from a visiting place. I remember that day when we beat Ohio State there. And it was just so joyous. I mean, so because every win is a tough win. But to beat them there and Ronnie, yes. And so, yeah. And it was funny, but like, especially at Iowa, I was in one of the corners. We put the two big guys who are not supposed to handle the ball in the corners. Yeah. And I was okay with that because, boy, you get your playing time and you got to chill a little bit. And I told Ronnie and Kenny Arnold and Kevin Boyle and Bobby, if you pass it to me, no, you're getting it right back.
Right.
Don't look away because it's coming back.
There's only one Steve Waite move against Georgetown. Because that was the thing, because we never did that. And that was one, in my mind, it was one of the things of, Kevin throws the ball to Steve in the corner or mid corner, and you're going because the play was for Kevin to shoot it and to score, and then we're like, oh crap, Waiter's got it. Well, what the hell is he gonna do with it?
And he's gonna take it to the hole.
The shot heard round the state of Iowa. Man,
yes.
Steve probably averaged 5 points a game that year, and he scores the last 3 points.
What a game!
He had a great game. I think he had like 12 or 14 points in that game. I looked. I I wanted to say something about that Final Four. First of all, when you guys were trying to run the clock, I believe the score was tied. You were looking for the final shot. I thought, amazingly, you had Kenny Arnold and Ronnie Lester in there together, moving that ball around, and I kept thinking, because I went back and watched the highlights.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, those two are handling the ball so well. If I don't know that they could have held the ball. You guys could have held the ball that long without those two, because those two were being guarded and pushed around. And I mean, holy cow, those two.
Duran and Sleepy Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
really
Georgetown had such good big guys.
Yes, Craig Shelton was my teammate in the CBA when I was drafted by Atlanta. They sent me to the Wildwood. God, I can't lose the name of it. I can't think of what we were. The Wildwood team, oh shoot, it'll come to me. Wildwood High Rollers, the Wildwood High Rollers.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
The old CBA, now known as the G League.
And you mentioned Kevin Boyle.
Yeah.
You talk about a great ball handler as a small forward. He was great in the four corners.
Yes. Yeah. Very quick, really lanky, could get his shot off against people.
And when Lute would put on a man-to-man press, and you'd have Ronnie Lester and Kevin Boyle on that press, they were like deadly. The other team would like crap their pants.
Yes, and it was great because I just would go underneath the basket and be the goalie. And let them go do their thing. And Kevin and I went to high school together.
I know. You and Jim Stack.
High school team.
I'm 2 years
you had
older.
Jim Stack.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was the year after I graduate, when I'm at Carolina, we're in the Eastern Regional and playing Notre Dame, and then we played Kentucky. And there was a reporter from the Sun-Times, I can't think if it was Jerry Schnee or somebody, one of the reporters from Chicago was covering it. And I saw him there, and I said, the first thing I went to him, I said, he wanted to talk about the North Carolina game. And I said, no, what did St. Lawrence do in the state tournament?
That's right.
And they went, after I graduated, they got better and went to the state tournament and finished second or third.
I was going to say that the first time I told you, even though I'm younger than you, I was a recruiting nut when I was in high school. First time I seen your name, I didn't know how to pronounce it, of course, but it was like, I was recruiting Larry Olstorn and Dean Utah, and there's this Krafcisin kid from St. Lawrence. Yeah. And so then it was like St. Lawrence. Well, here comes Kevin Boyle.
Yeah.
So that must have been a hell of a program they had there.
We did. And if you can imagine the Chicago Catholic League, we had 1,600 boys in school, all boys, 400 in a class. Now St. Lawrence has, I think, maybe 450 people in the school, and it's men and boys, or girls and boys.
Yeah.
Just incredible, the odds. And back then, still, like you'd hear about Dubuque Waller recruiting violations and Elon getting Omaha kids to come, and they recruited me.
So that really happened.
Yes. I was a public school kid. I went to public grammar school, K through 8. And anyway, St. Lawrence, it was between St. Lawrence, St. Rita, and St. Ignatius. And the guy at St. Ignatius, the coach was great, but it was in a really bad neighborhood. It's by the United Center. It's kind of in there in Chicago, and it's a very high academic college prep school. And I knew then in 8th grade that I really didn't want to study that hard. And so that was out. St. Rita is the neighborhood Catholic high school where I grew up in the South Side. And the only thing I went to visit there, big football school. And the high school coach then, I want to say it's not Bob Konecki or Kopecky, but something like that, where he was about, 5'9", 5'10", maybe. And I shook his hand, and it's terrible to say this, but he gave me a fish handshake, where someone just grabs your fingers and doesn't give you a handshake. And my mom, God love her, and taught me that when you're a man, you're going to shake a hand. You're going to shake a hand. And that just, and so I was not fired up on, to be honest. I thought it was, and St. Lawrence's high school coach, Chuck Schwartz, who we played for, was about 6'5", 6'6", big German family, a big guy, getting red in the face. Oh man. And I knew he was going to develop, and he had a big kid there. When I was in 8th grade, Steve Podokis, who was 6'11" tree, a massive man, ended up going to Washington State, played for George Raveling, and had like a lot of the Pac-8 scoring records during the Bill Walton time. And so I knew I would develop, because I always had a yearning. I can't explain it, that I wanted to get out of Chicago. I told DePaul, Loyola, Chicago State, UIC, everybody that, thank you very much, but don't waste your time, because I want green grass. And after being at a Catholic high school with 1,600 boys, I wanted some beautiful women to look at.
North Carolina's a pretty good place.
That wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
So who'd you come down to then? Who'd you come down to then when you made it?
Iowa, and North Carolina.
I thought so.
Indiana was in the hunt, but I could never get the idea of Bob Knight grabbing me like he grabbed Jim Wisman in '76. It was plastered all over the newspapers, and
there's a big old article, TV commentary, documentary on it.
Yeah, and I said I can't do it, and that was pretty much it. I told the ACC that I was fair game, and I talked to a lot of them. Only visited Carolina, because Carolina at the time, I don't know what you compare it to now. Florida, I don't know. Kentucky, where Dean Smith was the Olympic coach. The ACC basketball was #1, in a heartbeat. And they liked me and offered me a scholarship, and the women were beautiful when I visited, and it was everything you want, as they told me I would play, but we would win. I'd have to earn playing time, but we would be successful as they would be. And I just didn't know Lute had not, or Coach Olson had not won yet at Iowa.
No, we had
not had a winning record. Maybe it was his second year, third year, Long Beach. And I didn't want the Big Ten. I didn't want cold football teams. And I had nothing against them, but my high school coach was such a anti-football guy. And I shouldn't say anti-football guy, but no matter how good we did, St. Lawrence, my freshman year, St. Lawrence plays St. Rita in football. They go to the game is at Soldiers Field. Over 50,000 people go see the game in 1972. And so no matter what you did, you always were second place to them. And so I wanted to.
Yeah, and I think St. Rita's wide receiver Dave Moritz came to Iowa.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep. What a wide receiver for Hayden.
And the Catholic League was, in my first 2 years of high school, we were not part of the Illinois High School Association. No one played for the state. What you did, the winner of the Catholic League would play the winner of the public league, and had the city championship. And we had Big Ten refs in high school. And so it was always physical, much more physical than that. And then junior and senior year, we joined the league because my sophomore year, Ricky Green, Michigan and Coach Orr connection, they won the state championship, because public schools were allowed to play in the state. And And so Leo, I think, who was a team that won in the Catholic League, called them and said, okay, when do you want to play for the city? And they said, well, why should we do that when we just won the state? What is that? And so that was the end of the Catholic League being all alone. So we joined with them.
And Ricky Green was about the fastest, the only guy faster than Ronnie Lester.
Man, he was really quick. I've got a great story. Imagine that about Ricky Green. My senior year, we're playing. They're going to start, and it's probably been every year since. City Suburban All-Star game, huge. One game in the city, one game in the suburbs, and I'm in the first one. And for some reason, even though St. Lawrence was in a suburb, I lived in the city, and so they put me on the city team, and I'm the lone white wolf. Which is fine. That's basketball. That has no problems. Well, we're going to practice at Martin Luther King Boys Club. There hasn't been a white person that had been around the Martin Luther King Boys Club ever until me. And so that's what we practiced and played at Dunbar and then played at, I can't think of that.
Well, that's Ronnie Lester's school.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
did you know Ronnie then? Or?
No, I heard of him, but barely heard of him, which is amazing because, I mean, he's what he became and what he did. I just remember what the greatest, the cheerleaders at Dunbar would do a chant, "What's your favorite candy bar?" DUMBAR, Dunbar.
Well, I got it.
That sticks.
I told you I was a recruiting nut.
Yep.
You know, Lute went to the basketball camps that they'd have, and he sat by the Louisville coaches.
No.
And Louisville's watching Ronnie Lester out there. And Lute loved Ronnie Lester. He wasn't highly recruited.
No.
And the Louisville coaches, for some reason, they turned to Lute and they go, "Boy, look at him. What do you think of him?" Because he was more local, Lute would know more about him.
Yeah.
And Lute goes, "Well, Lute didn't want him to be interested in. He goes, he's not too good a shooter."
Yeah.
And at that very moment, Ronnie put up a 15-footer and just clanged it. Otherwise, he'd have probably went and played. Otherwise, he'd have probably went and played for Daryl Griffith. With Daryl Griffith, you know. But anyway, I want to tell you, I was a trainer at Procter and Gamble.
Yep.
And we had this guy named Robert Holmes, and I was training him. He was from Chicago. And I go, "Where'd you go to school in Chicago?" Because I'm a recruiting nut.
Yeah.
He goes, "Chicago Dunbar."
Yeah.
And I go, "Oh, you know who Ronnie Lester is?" And no. And I go, "What do you mean?" You know, this is 20 years after Ronnie played.
Yeah.
And I stopped a forklift driver driving by. And I said, "Everybody in Iowa knows Ronnie Lester. He's God."
Yeah.
You know, and the forklift driver, I just stopped him and he goes, "Yeah, Kelvin." And I go, "Can you tell this guy who Ronnie Lester is?" He goes, "The best damn ball player Iowa ever had."
Wow.
And he took off. So this Robert Holmes, who's my friend on Facebook, he'll probably listen to this.
Yeah.
He goes, "I'm going to call the coach. I played basketball at Dunbar, and I'm going to ask him who Ronnie Lester is." Next day, that guy comes running up to me smiling. And he goes, "I found out who Ronnie Lester is." And he goes, I go, "Okay." And he said, "Yeah, my coach said that's the guy that's statues out in front of the high school."
Oh, seriously, he has a statue. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's that famous picture of Ronnie. They made a statue out of it where he's on one knee and he's got a basketball on the floor.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, that's the statue at Chicago Dunbar.
I guess I didn't know that. Hey, my voltage is going. I've got to change rooms.
Okay.
Is it okay?
All right, we'll hang in there for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just got to go upstairs. Sorry.
All right.
I don't have
That's all right.
down here.
Dean, isn't Steve awesome?
He's going good.
He's Special K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm collecting I've started with now my third year of retirement,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking about writing a book.
Yeah.
And,
I would buy it.
and writing down stories, because once, at some point in time, I'm probably going to pass. And even though
We
I'd
all
like to
will.
live forever, but it's probably not going to happen. And then the stories go away.
They do. Yeah. Well, that's why, speaking of stories, I kind of like, let's go back to that year, the 1980 Final Four team.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, you got any great stories, like with somebody specifically wanted me to ask you about Kevin Boyle. Did you guys have any good stories together, about Kevin Boyle?
Boy, it was because I've known Kevin and for so long, and I can't. They don't come to mind. Just one of the things that does come to mind is that he was so absent-minded. He would be, if there's a guy that misplaced his hotel key or car keys or something like that at some point, Kevin was going to be the guy.
Okay.
To do that. But no, he was always been great to me. And we've had a tremendous obvious connection for all these years. And because he has a great story too of, being at St. Lawrence, and then I don't know if his dad gets a new job in St. Louis. And so he lives with Coach Schwartz, our high school coach, which is probably illegal. And Jimmy Stack did too, because they moved around or somehow, and so they're obviously really close. And but when I remember Kevin coming to visit and just talked about it, and it was great that he at least took my word that it was a good place to be. And none that I can think of.
Kevin Boyle, if Ben McCollum would have been our age, he was the Chris Street of the late 70s and early 80s.
Yeah.
Nobody played harder.
No.
At 6'6", he averaged like 5-6 rebounds a game, 3 steals a game. He shot his last 2 years he played injured, but he was shooting like 55%. And then his last 2 years, what did he do? Break his hand or shoulder or something? I don't know. But you talk about a guy that just played so hard.
I just see him as being, he was so long. I don't know I don't know if we even talked about arms or whatever they call that, where you measure
wingspan.
Wingspan, there we go. He had to have tremendous for his frame.
And he was the year before he got hurt, he was the national amateur player of the year. He went to some World University games.
Oh, wow.
He was that good. I don't know if he played for Lute or who he played for, but he was the national amateur basketball player of the year before he got his last 2 years. He couldn't shoot because of injury. But anyway,
that's all right.
Yeah. Well, so do you know Kevin Boyle used to be the color man for UNI? What's he doing today?
He's still working. He's working for a bank in Glidden.
Yeah.
Or Gladbrook or Glidden.
Yeah, and he went into coaching with Eldon Miller.
Yes.
About the same time you went into coaching.
Yes. So he's working in a bank right by Cedar Falls, there, right by Hudson. I can't think of it. Rhinebeck, maybe. And
I know it's. I realize. I think it's Rhinebeck. I know it's in that neck of the woods because he's been there forever.
Yes. Yeah, been there forever. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious if he was still doing any of the color, if he just gave that up.
I don't know. I try to play golf with him at least 2 or 3 times a year. I'll have to ask him, but I can't remember if he's still doing that or not. I can't remember if he did or not. No, because I think Paul Dorfeld might be working doing some of that color now.
Okay, alrighty.
Yeah. Now, Steve, let's go back a little bit. How did you wind up at Iowa after going to the Final Four with North Carolina? You didn't play a lot for North Carolina, but what got you back to Iowa?
Okay, hang on. I'm sorry, I'm having these issues here with this charger.
No problem.
I want to make sure it's. want to make sure it's charging here. God, it's a great podcast.
You're still handsome as ever, Steve.
Thank you, and I feel that way.
Yeah, us three guys, Dean's bald too. We don't do Vitalis commercials anymore.
No,
We're more into
says,
we'll probably get sponsored by Cialis instead of Vitalis.
my mom said it's because of all the showers I took over my lifetime, and it's like I don't think that had anything.
You had the prettiest hair on the team. I mean,
Yeah, for a while there, I was a John
Well, let's
Travolta.
look at that hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
bet them North Carolina girls like that.
Yes, yes. Well, was it to go to the Iowa was always my second choice.
Yeah.
And when I got to North Carolina, everything was great.
Mm-hmm.
But I came back. I was on an AAU team to Spain and Russia over the summer, and which was a bunch of Lexington, Kentucky kids. Players, and I came back and I could have sworn that Coach Smith told me I was going to be the only player 6'9" or better they were going to sign that year. So I would have been second string to Tommy LaGarde. And I thought, man, that's a heck of a deal.
Yeah.
And so I signed and did that because I wanted to play. I mean, I also wanted to win, but I wanted to play, and it was perfect. Well, I come back and hang on one second. I got to talk to one of my sons here.
Okay.
No big deal.
Sorry, because of the Gabe or Jake.
I think it's going pretty well.
Well, yeah. Steve's a great guy with so much interesting life. How can you go wrong?
Right.
You know? But so it was pretty much, he's saying that it's pretty much Iowa was his. He's going to tell us Iowa was his first and only choice after North Carolina, probably. And I want to ask him something about the recruitment from Iowa.
Go. Yeah. I think I see his son in the background there.
Yep. Well, it was,
Hi, son.
So when
it was pretty much Iowa?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, yes.
And my question is, you know, there was Kenny Burmeister, McAndrew, Rosborough, Lute, and Jerry Strom.
Yep.
Was the coaches. And what was recruiting? And of course, Bobby Olson, everybody said she was very involved.
Yes.
As a kind of creating a family atmosphere. So what was the recruiting like being recruited by Iowa?
Oh, it was great. I got the closest to Coach Rosborough, who I'm still close to today. Was you know, been in Chicago, recruited a lot of guys, or was part of the West Side, South Side.
That was a really good coaching staff.
Yes, and we had I want to say maybe my redshirt year, we had Floyd Theard, who ended up going to University of Denver and then passing away suddenly. But it was a great staff that made you feel at home, made you feel comfortable. It was only 3.5 hours away from Chicago. My family could get to a lot of games. And so, the visit was great in high school. The visit was great. The people were great.
But Lute just hadn't won anything.
No, that was the kicker, that I didn't know if they'd win. And but then the reason for the second choice, that didn't matter at all. All my reasons for wanting to go to Carolina are the reasons. And then I came back and went to Iowa.
Okay.
Everything reversed. The family was more important. Being close was more important. Being wanted was more important.
And I heard they said that Lute had his players vote whether to accept a recruit.
Yes, I was part of it.
Isn't that something? You guys had the nicest. You were the most talkative, best interview of any of them. But everybody else was so bashful, so humble. You couldn't get a word out of Kenny Arnold, out of Ronnie Lester. Kevin Boyle was stumbling over stuff. Steve Waite, the nicest guy God ever traded. Vince Brooken's quiet.
Oh God, what a great yes.
Yeah.
Very, very humble.
And your first year back, you guys won the Big Ten, right?
Yes.
William Mayfield.
Bill Mayfield.
Yeah.
Dick Pace, Tommy Norman. There wasn't a tougher guard, I'm going to say maybe in the Big Ten, than Dick Pace.
Oh, God. I remember Dick Pace had a jump ball for Iowa, and he's doing a jump ball against a 6'9" guy. He gets it. You know how he got it? He jumped into the guy. He jumped when the referee throws the ball up. He jumps right into him and kind of hits him in the stomach to get the jump ball. That's how tough he was.
Oh, the pride of Toma, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was it 79 when Michigan State kept Iowa from winning the Big Ten with Magic?
No, we tied with them. That's our last one.
Yeah,
the Matthews guy at Wes Matthews at Wisconsin hit a 3-quarter shot
to beat Michigan State
to tie us, but we got screwed. We got screwed at Michigan State.
Yeah,
we had them beat, and the referees called a fake foul on Ronnie Lester.
Yep, that's the game where it's a 2-on. I'm on defense and it's a 2-on-1. Magic is coming at me from the middle, and on my left is Greg Kelser coming filling the lane.
Oh my God!
A lot of luck here. I take a jab at Magic to make him give the ball up or to stop him, and it does that. But my reaction to where the ball goes to Kelser, and Kelser getting ready to dunk it, was Kelser was a little quicker than me, and I tried for some reason. I attempted to block the dunk attempt. I got an elbow to the cheek, and I think broke the cheekbone or eye socket or something like that. And he dunks it. Ed Marisich Sr., who the referee who I've known since I got to St. Lawrence from all the Catholic League days, I evidently fouled him with my face. And I go down and I'm out. I'm in the locker room for the rest of the game, and I had to fly with the coaches because they had a pressurized cabin. And oh God! Because so when you see the picture of that team, somehow we took the team picture late because you can still see me with the black eye from the game. But yes, it was. Yeah, we were grateful.
That was Iowa's last. That was Iowa's last Big Ten championship.
Yes.
Yeah. The funny thing about that is watching Magic that year, and I only saw him against Iowa because, TV wasn't really available for everybody like it was for Iowa in those days.
Yeah, Ronnie Lester was second team All-American that year.
I became a huge Magic fan and followed him to the Lakers and stayed that way. And my buddy knew what a big Magic fan I was and went to a book signing he had, and he invited me out for dinner one night and then presented me with the book that Magic personally wrote out for me.
The only reason I'm an Iowa fan, so the opponent we play is always my enemy.
Absolutely.
But the one thing I love about Magic Johnson, they won the world championship for the Lakers, and Ronnie's on the team as a guy that don't play because Ronnie's has one leg that don't work, And the Sports Illustrated guy is interviewing Magic, and Magic sees Ronnie back in the back of the room, and the reporter is saying, "How does it feel? You were the best high school player in the world. You were the best college player. And now you're winning the world championship. Now you're on top of the NBA." And Magic stops him and looks out of the corner of his eye at Ronnie back there, and he goes, "I wasn't even the best player in the Big Ten." He goes, "That guy was." And the reporter put it in the story, and I just loved Magic for that.
Ronnie. It's hard to describe Ronnie. My best action of Ronnie was my redshirt year, where I didn't get to play and had to sit out and get it back. They're playing the Russian national team. with Vladimir Tachenko, and who's like 7'6" in a redwood.
Jeez.
Huge human being, and I've got
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of stories about him too. But Ronnie dribbles the ball down and that year we had that synthetic turf or synthetic floor,
Rubber or something.
the rubber floor. I forget what they
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I can see Ronnie dribbling down and pulling up at the elbow, and Tachenko is like right there, and nothing but net. Just looped it over. And Kenny was a pretty close second to pull up jumpers. Where man, they
But
were not going to take a tough.
Ronnie he had absolutely no weakness in basketball.
No,
You know,
none,
they talk
none.
about who's the best point guard at Iowa, and some of these young people, oh, B.J. Armstrong, Andre Woolridge, great players.
Yeah.
You know, but Ronnie was built strong up top like Andre Woolridge. You know, he was a great ball handler, shooter, athlete. It's like when you guys won the Big Ten, you guys went and played Toledo
Yes.
in the NCAA tournament, and you guys was behind by 1, and Toledo's taking the ball in with like 17 seconds left, and I swear Ronnie let his guy get a back door on him on purpose.
Oh.
Because the guy got it, he had an easy layup, and Ronnie comes in, and he's way up above the rim, and he blocks it off the board.
Oh.
At 6'1" or whatever Ronnie.
Yeah,
was.
incredible.
And no, they go down, and Ronnie passes it around, and Kenny Arnold hits a 16-footer to put us back up by 1.
Yeah.
With just like 7 seconds left, and unfortunately Toledo hit a shot. But
Hard
the athleticism Ronnie showed on that play, where I just know he baited that guy into thinking he had a layup.
Oh,
Yeah.
he was, and you're right. I don't think he said more than a couple words to me at least my first year there.
Very
And
quiet.
nothing bad at all. I remember being in a practice or a pickup game, and all the guys kind of knew I was kind of, my other nickname was Black Hole, because I wasn't thinking about passing it back out. But if I was open, God dang it, give me the ball. And I got on Ronnie once about, I must have yelled it, God dang, give me the ball. And he could have been, because he's Mr. Iowa City, Mr. Iowa. And he could have said, screw you, Kay, and all that kind of stuff. And he came over to me and said, what's the problem? And I said, if I'm open, give me the ball. He goes, Kay, I'll get you the ball, but you got to rebound for me. If you rebound for me and you're open, I will give you the ball. But then you better make the dang thing. Or I'm not passing it into you. And I said, that's a deal. I'm good. And I led the team in field goal percentage my junior and senior year because I didn't want to let them down.
I remember you guys went to the Dayton Tire Classic. That's where Ronnie's knee went out.
Yes.
The kneecap moved. And the game before, Jim Zabel has Red Auerbach on at halftime.
Wow.
And they're talking, and Red Auerbach says, well, I want to tell you something, Mr. Zabel. You got the number 1 draft pick in the next year's draft playing for you, that Ronnie Lester.
Wow.
And the next night, there went his knee. That's how good Ronnie Lester was. A 6'1" guy, going to be the first draft pick in the NBA draft.
I believe that.
You guys went 9-9 without Ronnie.
Yes, we had to win. We had to win that weekend at home against Illinois, Michigan.
And you guys never lost a game that Ronnie finished.
Right.
With you. You guys were averaging 102 points a game when his knee went out.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what
they
might
can
have
talk
been?
all they want to. They can talk all they want to about Lute slowing it down. If Lute had the athletes, he ran.
Oh.
He's like Ben McCollum.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Fill people in on Ben McCollum when he's got a good shooting team.
Oh, yeah. Some of those, a lot of times you see on CBS the Division II championship game, and it's just from. I mean, he did not have the reins on the guys. just like Lute would let Vince go off for a while. Vince Brookins, and man, Vince could run with anybody, and we
Oh
could
my
run
God.
with anybody. And yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really,
I told you I followed recruiting.
yeah.
Vince was from Cleveland, Ohio, I think, and he
Yes.
was down to either going to Iowa or the UNLV running Rebels.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Tarkanian wasn't going to recruit Vince Brookins unless he was a tremendous athlete,
Yes.
and another quiet, nice person.
One or two dribbles to the left, and it was golden.
Yeah, and people don't remember,
Little crossover
the Final Four run. Ronnie Lester was swinging one leg, right?
Yes.
And pretty much Bobby Hansen and Vince Brookins really was the hot shooter of
Yes.
the tournament.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah, I thought Bobby Hansen in that last 10 minutes of that Georgetown game really came through for you guys.
Yes, I remember the game before. We're playing Syracuse.
oh my God, another great team.
Which was an unbelievable, the Rosie and Bowie show, and
Louis
or
Orr.
Bowie and Louis show.
Yep.
And we're down. I want to say it's either we're down 9 with 12 minutes to go, or down 12 with 9 minutes to go. One of the two, and I'm on the 3 second, or the free throw lane. Someone's going to shoot it. And I remember Bobby coming in. I think one of our guys was shooting it. Bobby came up to me, and I'm grabbing my shorts, trying to suck as much air as I possibly can, because I got to deal with Roosevelt Bowie and Danny Shays, and Bobby whispers in my ear, "God dang it, let's go, Kay. We're only down 9."
I'm only down 9. I like that.
Or whatever it was. Like, hey, we got plenty of time. Okay. I mean, he was definitely mature, basketball-wise, very mature, more mature for his age. And what a great we talk about competitive, incredible competitor. I mean, his freshman year, we're playing at Ohio State, playing at home against Ohio State, and the same situation. And Bobby's bringing the ball up the middle. I'm on the left side, my left side. Not Clark Kellogg. Herb Williams is being goalie, 2-on-1, and I'm like, Bobby's dribbling up, and I'm waiting for that pass. Surely he's gonna pass me the ball, and he did not, and took on Herbie and scored, and it was like, that was my big defining time for Bobby.
He was very confident. He was very confident in himself.
Yes.
I got to tell you guys, back in the day, this is probably, I don't remember when, but you guys know at one point, both B.J. Armstrong and Bobby Hansen were on the Bulls together.
Yeah.
And, but when I played the video game, of course it was kind of primitive in those days.
Yeah.
I made sure that Bobby Hansen did all my shooting.
Oh,
and B.J.
wow.
Armstrong. I left Michael Jordan on the bench.
You're the only one, Dean.
I only lost 2 games that season.
You're the only one, though, Dean.
Yeah. Oh,
but Bobby Hansen, they always talk about Jim Paxson hitting the big shot for the Bulls to win a world championship. Well, Bobby Hansen did too.
Yeah.
That one year he was with the Bulls.
And talking about.
Hey, can we mention somebody that was also like one of the greatest people ever?
Sure.
John Streif.
Oh, the best.
He made you look like a mummy a lot.
Yes, it was great. I took a charge. I can't remember what year it was, and for some reason the person's knee went into my left thigh, and I think it was my left thigh, and I could never. I wasn't a great practice player or great like let's go lift all day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't, loving the weight room very much. But I did it. I got it kind of redone. And John came up with this double wrapped plastic air bubble thing. Like when you pack up stuff and you got where they snap when you pack fragile stuff up, and you want to, what I'm talking about?
Bubble wrap.
Bubble wrap.
Yeah,
so it had like 4 sheets of 4 times around bubble wrap. It was a hell of a defense and hell of a weapon to put into somebody to push them out a little more out of the post. And it was a great. John was the best. I mean,
he was like the male Mother Teresa. That's
Yeah.
the way. That's the way the football players. He helped with the football team and everything.
Didn't matter if you were a starter, 15th guy. If you were
If you
sick,
were a
John was bringing
manager,
soup to you.
yeah,
Manager,
if he was
absolutely.
if you were a manager, I heard a manager said he moved from a house to another house in Iowa City, and John Streif comes to help him move.
Yes, the pride of Manchester, Iowa.
Well,
Okay.
he's from a little town. I know the area.
Yeah.
He was from a little dinky town, Oneida. I
Oneida?
think
Is it
called,
Oneida?
right south of Greeley, Iowa.
Oh,
So
Georgiana, I don't know how to say your name, Georgiana.
Mhm.
Yeah, she just says hi y'all and how y'all Tuesday's going.
going
So
great.
hi, thank you for joining and watching.
Yes.
I'd also like to point something out. Everybody always talks about Michael Payne and Greg Stokes being the Twin Towers. The first Twin Towers in the media
It
for
was us.
basketball times for Iowa were
Yep.
Krafcisin and Wade.
Yep.
They
And
had
Steve,
an article with the headline, "The Twin Towers
the Twin
of Iowa."
Towers. And
Yep.
Steve was always great to me. My redshirt year was his freshman year.
Mhm.
And I remember coming up in the summer before and staying at Wader's house because he's from Iowa City. And just, we never had that. Yes, we wanted to be the best we could be and we were competitive. But I just loved playing with him. And we never thought of it as I got to beat him out or I just got, we were that all 3 years, but that year, especially that first year that I was here, we were so into each other. We all got along really well, except when I was on the other team in a 5-on-5 scrimmage and Dick Pace was one of the guards on the other team. Then he would block me out and try to throw his elbows all over me, but just close. We would go to John.
You always had this talent to catch elbows.
Yes, and
I mean,
throw 'em a
remember
little
when
bit, but
Isaiah
yes.
Thomas slit your face open?
Yes, and it's a great yes. That was a great story, and it's he were there. We came down, and I can't remember what time of the game was, and we came back. We came down in the zone, and Isaiah came from underneath the basket, tried to come up the lane,
You weren't going to
there.
let him do it.
I was not, and so I took my left tricep and elbow, kind of popped him in the chest, and like a railroad arm, and stopped him from going. And as soon as I hit him, he reached underneath my armpit and popped me with the back of his hand. Well, as I'm a very emotional person, if anybody comes near my face, I'm going down. I'm going down because he didn't hit me that hard, but he hit me and it kind of startled me. And you watch it, I crumble like an old house, just boom, and make it look good. And then Bobby got a tee, Isaiah got a tee.
Wow.
Knight, I think, got thrown out maybe. And
well, you were a game winner. You won the game.
Absolutely, that was big.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I want to point out Lute, his last 6 games against Bob Knight, and Bob Knight's one of the greatest coaches that ever lived. Lute was 5-1.
Yeah, man.
When he left Iowa, his last 6 games was 5-1, and Lute, his last 5 years at Iowa, at that time was the only coach that finished in the history of Iowa to finish in the upper division 5 straight years.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
great.
Lute.
He was
we know that
first, and then the third year he was second, and then he was third and third.
Yeah,
In there between was the year Ronnie Lester got hurt,
yeah,
and we finished
That's
5th.
important.
We'd have been first or second in the league that year.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you suppose? I mean, because at Iowa, he was close, but never got over the hump, and in NCAA tournaments, they would lose to teams they probably shouldn't have lost to. But when he got to Arizona, things changed. What was the difference
we got to
between
a Final
Arizona and
Four.
Iowa?
to a Final Four, Dean.
I know. I'm talking about the rest of
I'm
the seasons.
I'm gonna say athletes. I think
Mm-hmm.
California.
Mhm.
The kids that were athletic. He had a great staff. Roz was with him for a few years. I know, went with him a little bit. Then he went to Northern Illinois.
McAndrew went down there.
McAndrew went down there for a while, and he got some kids. I mean, Bibby, with just countless number of guys, and I think that was a big. And he was a big enough personality, and he was known because he wasn't just a North Dakota kid. I mean, he was at Long Beach and all those areas, like that. And I think that's because Roz would talk to me every once in a while, and he would, maybe 5 or 10 years after, and he would say, okay, you guys were pretty good, but these sons of guns are really athletic.
Well,
I don't know if you could start for
I
them.
remember when, Lute, when he had you in weight, he coached more of a physical inside presence.
Oh,
And the ref, he'd yell at the refs if they called a foul on you.
Yep.
He'd say, "Let them play."
Oh, yeah.
And then 2 years later, he's got Stokes and Payne, and they're like these gazelles running up and down the floor.
Oh.
And when they went to the hoop, he was yelling at the refs, "Call a foul!
Call the foul!" Yes, absolutely. We ran a triangle, and it was a beat 'em up conference back then. And what's really interesting. Well, one of the things interesting to me, watching some of those games and watching some of those highlights, of the Final Four year or before or after, boy, incredible touch fouls that now you would never. I mean, and we thought it was a bloodbath then.
But the Big Ten, when you played in the Big Ten, it was so good.
Yes.
They'd have two teams in the Final Four. They'd have national champion Indiana, Michigan State. It was, and they were big physical teams too.
Yeah.
And you had coaches like Gene Cady, Bobby Knight that coached very physical.
Dutcher. Yeah. Lou in Illinois.
Got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Were you still playing for Lute the time that a phantom foul was called? I think it was against Boyle, maybe.
With Jim Bain.
I think. Yeah, and they changed. I think it was
at Purdue.
At Purdue was the Jim Bain game.
I was gone.
And Steve Garfino was the point guard.
Yep, I was gone.
So Garfino came along right after you left. Then
he was a freshman when we were seniors.
Okay.
And my last game as a Hawk was the no timeout game at Wichita State.
Technical.
That cost you the game because somebody called the timeout.
Luke told Bobby to call the timeout.
And I talked about that on the golf course a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Going, I still, it's been 40 years or more. I still don't know what happened. I mean, I heard that. That's what I heard. That Luke told Bobby to call the timeout, and Bobby supposedly told Coach, "We don't have any left."
Yeah. And
he said, "Listen to me. I want you to call it or whatever call that, but I want you to call a timeout." To go from being up. I think we were up 12 at half, and I scored the first basket of the second half to go up 14. And then the Antoine Carr and Cliff Livingston and dunk show happened.
And you were playing on their home court.
On their home floor. We got a bye, but had to play on the home. That's just the most ridiculous thing in the world because we had a really good team.
Lute lost a bunch of first-round games for Arizona too, but that's basketball.
Yes. When I was at North Carolina, and it's a different time and place, but Coach Smith, my year was only there 1 year. No weight in the NCAA tournament. He wanted to win the regular season and one of the few teams that or conferences that had a post game or post tournament, and then whatever else we did was gravy. And it's like so there was never, and there was getting some pressure on Coach Smith for not winning a national championship yet.
Mhm.
And so, I've always viewed it as nothing. It was a shame because my first year eligible, we had, Lute had not won at Indiana yet on the floor. And so we go play Toledo in Bloomington. So we go, great. This is our chance to win on that floor.
Yep.
So we can go into the next seasons and have confidence. And then we lose that game there.
Yep.
Then
I was brokenhearted.
then the Final Four run.
Mhm.
To go back for me to go to Greensboro, where that was my first college game, home floor at North Carolina. They had a Big Four tournament, which is made. Now you think about that. They have a Big Four tournament. So before the season even starts, this is the first game of the year. We're going to play NC State, and then we're going to play the winner or loser of Wake Forest Duke in the Greensboro Coliseum. We played NC State 4 times that year.
Yeah.
And so to go there in the Greensboro and then senior year to have to go at Wichita was terrible. They played and they deserved it, but then they went on probation for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So did
paying
that
for
game in that Big Four count? That Big Four tournament?
Yes, in the regular
counted?
season, in your overall, but not as a conference.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Tell the story about our Final Four run where you got sick before the North Carolina State game.
Oh my! So we're there for the whole time. I think we probably played on Thursday. And yeah,
Like
we played
Virginia Commonwealth.
Yep, beat them, and they had a pretty good team, and we beat them. Friday we have practice, and then we have a team meal, and then we hang out for a while. And so at the ritual of our team was when we were away on Friday before a game on Saturday. If we're on the road, we all went to somebody's room and watched Dallas, the TV show, with Victoria Principal and Larry Hagman and Hushad JR and all that stuff.
Mhm.
That was huge, huge.
Mhm.
So we decide we're going to go into John Darcy from West Des Moines. We're going to go into his room and whoever he roomed with. So almost everybody is in there. And Darcy doesn't tell anybody, at least this is my side of the story. Darcy doesn't tell anybody that he's not feeling well. And so we're all crammed into one little room at a Holiday Inn, somewhere in Greensboro. And so I wake up the next morning, and we had to wake up early because I think the game was at 11, and we had to eat pregame meal at 7. And so I wake up, I'm sick as a dog. I'm throwing up. I'm everything. And so, but they, keep going. I'll be fine. They'll get over it here somehow and get to the gym in Greensboro. And I'm feeling awful. Coach Olson is giving us our talk. I tried to warm up, went to the layup line a few times and sat down and went back to the locker room. Coach Olson is giving us our final instructions, and I'm just heaving. Throwing up in 2 stalls down, and it's a small locker room, so not very big, so everybody can hear me. And I'm throwing up, and Coach Olson says, "Kay, can you hear me in? Can you hear me in there?" "Yes, sir." And go on, and I play a little bit, and end up I think about 7 for 7 from the free throw line, or 7 for 8. And they kept showing at the end. I've seen it. I'm at the end of the bench with Streif, of course, with John.
Yeah.
And everybody's warm up is on me, trying to keep me warm. And I'm
I
like,
think you had a towel over your head
yeah,
too.
towel. It was miserable.
You looked awful. You looked like Michael Jordan in the flu game.
Oh, it was terrible. And Vince Brookins had a great game, and we beat NC State, who was the ACC champs.
What was it? Hawkeye Whitney, and what was the name of their star player?
Clyde the Glide. Clyde
Austin.
Dexter?
Clyde the Glide Austin.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they had a big guy, a 7-footer, 2 in the middle. I can't think. Started with an F.
You guys just played. You played 4 great teams to get to the Final Four.
at the
Yeah.
Spectrum. And one of the best things about the whole Spectrum deal is Coach Olson or Coach Streif, John, took us to Bookbinders, one of the nicest Philadelphia seafood restaurants in the whole city, and
Yeah.
eat there a lot. And to be told that we can order anything we wanted, but we damn better eat it. And was, I think, the quote.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember in that game in North Carolina State game, Vince Brookins is hot, right?
Yes.
Well, he was kind of hot. It was in the start of the game, and Vince is putting up this 25-foot shot right in front of the Iowa bench.
Yeah.
And Lute sees him that he's going to take the shot, and he reaches over and grabs Bobby Hansen by the back and is going to throw him into the game.
Yeah.
But Brookins, his shot was kind of low. He just drilled it.
Yeah.
And Lute hurried up and grabbed Bobby Hansen and shoved him back on the chair. I think we'll leave Vince in.
That was tough because we got the lead and we would go up and down, but it was pretty. Coach Olson liked to be in control.
Yeah.
And I think, it was like Vince, he's this thoroughbred that just needs to run.
Mm-hmm.
And, and just, we wanted him to go and we did much more our senior year.
Yeah. So,
and you remember the Georgetown game? You guys beat them by like 1 point, right?
Yes. Yes.
You guys shot 75% from the field in the second half.
Incredible.
How the hell does that happen?
I don't know. I don't know. It was because they shot well. I think they shot in the 60s.
58, I think.
58.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It seemed like once you guys caught them, you caught up and passed them, and then it seemed like a back and forth game until the end.
Just incredible. And back then, to be able to play at the Spectrum where Dr. J plays, was way, way cool. The floor was pretty dead. It was not a very bouncy floor, but what a great experience.
Yeah, I think, but a little trivia piece from your Final Four trip is you were the last team to play 2 games in the Final Four. Nobody's done it since.
Yep, they had a consolation game, unfortunately, against Purdue.
I know. You should have heard me when we were watching the consolation game. Me and my dad. Oh my God! You don't know how mad I was. I was throwing stuff.
Well, we didn't have Ronnie,
Well, we didn't. Well, we certainly we didn't want to play it, and because and that's why they took it out because it's so emotional.
Right.
To getting to it and then to not have the success that you wanted, and then have to play Purdue. And I didn't like Joe Barry Carroll to begin with.
Were you there when he took his recruiting trip to Iowa City?
No, because I think
it's very famous. It's a very famous recruiting trip. Yes. Obviously, the team didn't vote for him.
No, they ate at my version, or I heard was they ate at the Brown Bottle, one of the nice Italian restaurant downtown or pizza place. Italian.
Oh, I love that place. I love the Brown Bottle.
Oh, it was great. And they had this dessert, this like chocolate cookie something, a huge thing. Chocolate cookie, I don't know what, but a huge thing. They were known for it. And he asked for a whole pie to go to take back to the Highlander, because that's where we stayed at back then. We had recruits at the Highlander on Highway 1 there. And I remember everybody said no. And I was part of the, like you talked about, asked before, Jim Peterson that went to Minnesota. I was his helper or his partner, and I told Coach Olson not to get him. Yeah. Joe Barry, and so because we had done it, me and Waiter did a great job on him for the most part, all the times, and then have him, and at some point in the game. Had to be pretty early for whatever reason. I'm running down the floor on defense, transition defense, and Joe Barry is running with me. And I take a swing at Joe Barry at half court.
And why did you do that, Steve?
I just didn't like him. I was pissed at him for something. And
you're a great Hawkeye, goddammit.
I took a swing, and my good friend of mine from Chicago, Arnett Hallman, who was the power forward for that team, could jump out of the gym.
Yeah.
He goes, Steve, don't swing at him. He'll kill you. I said, Arnett, I don't care. I just want one swing.
Mhm.
He might kill me, but I just want one.
Yeah.
I
And
think
all
you
this had
missed.
to happen, and then he proceeds to have like 37.
Mm,
And I
Yep.
decided to foul out really early.
Yeah, Bruce Douglas was another guy that came to Iowa City, Michael Payne's teammate, and
Yes.
he got like 0 votes from the team. I think
Wow.
even Michael Payne voted against him.
Jeez. Yeah, that was great. That was one of the things that, as a player, sometimes the coach, you have positives and negatives or bad thoughts about. And I thought that was not bad, but that's one thing that I really liked Coach Olson about was that, man, he really put trust in us. And it was a very good thing.
I kind of think the new coach at Iowa was very similar to Luke.
Boy, I think so. I was gonna look it up, and obviously I didn't. But I can't remember how long was Coach Olson at Long Beach State before he came?
1 year,
1 year, or just 1 year?
29-4, I think, something like
Well,
that.
I think there's a whole lot of
And they were
similarities there
banned.
as
They were
well.
banned from the tournament because Tarkanian was the coach the year before and paid a bunch of players.
Yeah.
And Lute hated Jerry Tarkanian.
Oh, I bet he
For
did. I bet he
You
did.
know,
But man, I think I was trying to think of,
he was at
Coach
Long
Olson and
Beach
Ben. Good
Community.
God.
He was at Long Beach Community College as a JC coach before that.
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
another thing that's the same with Ben and Lute starting. When Luke came to Iowa, there wasn't much on the team. There was Bruce King, and Gatens was a big center, But Luke brought 3 Long Beach
yes.
State guys with him, just like Ben McCollum's bringing his team. He had
Can I
Dan.
pause it for a second? I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, sorry.
So, one thing I would let him do is talk more. Feed it to him and let him talk.
Well, I think we are
Yeah.
just mentioning things, and then he tells you the story.
Yeah. Okay.
But-
Alrighty. Okay. My knees are getting awfully sore. So while he's
Can you
gone, I
walk
might
around?
go ahead and do
Does
a
it
commercial
help?
break.
Does it help if you walk around a little bit?
Yeah, I'm gonna stand up here in a minute when he
Okay.
gets back. I'm gonna take this into a commercial break while he's gone.
Yeah.
Tonight we're on our border, we stick to the pen. Chaos and disorder, play them like a violin. I feel the fever rising, what a joy to see your hands. If you got something to say to me, so come on, here I stand. I start to shiver when it's out of control.
Okay.
All
Sorry.
right, we're back we went to a commercial break.
Oh, great.
I thought that would be a
Thank you.
good time. I was been trying to get it in for the last 30 minutes, but everything is going so well. I just thought,
Yeah.
man, I'm just going to wait for the right moment. But
Hey,
people
Steve,
out
do you
there,
want to
we
go
are-
on to your coaching career?
Whatever you want to do, I'm okay
Oh,
with
I
it.
know you started at Loras, right?
Yep. Started at Loras, there for 3 years. After I got done playing, the last thing I wanted to do was to be a coach. I always had that thought in college. I wanted to do something else and be known for something else than just a basketball player. And so I got a recreation degree in therapeutic. Worked at the penitentiary in Fort Madison for a year and a half. Worked in Dyersville at an adolescent teenage alcohol and drug treatment center. And while I was in Dubuque, living in Dubuque, when I was working at Dyersville, I saw an ad in the Dubuque paper. They needed an assistant men's basketball coach at Loras College. And I knew nothing about Loras except that they would recruit a lot of Chicago kids. and I was a Chicago kid, so I knew of Loras, being a good Catholic boy that I was, in Dubuque, and I said, well, it's not going to hurt for me to just go talk to him, whoever it is, and they had just announced that they were going from NAIA to Division III. And the coach that was there previous did not want, he was also the baseball coach, and he didn't want to go that way. He wanted to stay with being able to give kids scholarship money. So he leaves, and Mike Jaskulski, the head coach, who's from Green Bay or around Wisconsin, is the new head coach. And so talk to him. Kevin White, who's a great athletic director, was athletic director at Loras, was at Duke, was at Maine, Notre Dame.
Wow.
Just awesome guy. And his son was the coach of Florida for a while. White, Kevin White, Mike White. And so anyway, so I went over there and saw it was going to be the assistant men's basketball coach, the assistant intramural director, alcohol and drug education counselor, and I was going to sell ads for football and basketball programs during the summer, all for $16,000. And I said yes without any hesitation, left the job at Dyersville, took about a $9,000 or $10,000 pay cut. And it was the best one of the best decisions I ever made to get into coaching. And I finally had to come to my reckoning that God didn't put me on here to be a 6'9" insurance salesman. So let's stay with coaching. And so it was there for 3 years. One of the grad assistant football coaches was Johnny Baxter, and he had known the staff at Iowa State football. And when you're at Loras, everybody knows everybody. Coach Bob Berry, the athletic director and head football coach, awesome guy. Mm-hmm. Johnny was at Iowa State for some reason, maybe a GA there, and came back and said, hey, I know I've met Coach Orr. He's looking for a big guy coach and that could go recruit Chicago. And I said, I think I can fall into that.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah. And so I said, well, okay, I'll give him a call. Called them, went down there, and they had me work their summer basketball camp for a week. And then Coach Orr got along with Rick, got along with Jim, got along with Coach really well. And that day I was supposed to go back home, Coach Orr just puts me in his office and says, we're in some ways very similar. I just thought we had a great sense of humor. He doesn't take himself seriously, which I certainly don't. And just a great person. So we're in his office. He's in his desk. I'm at the couch right across from him. And he says, Kay, I'd really like to hire you, but God dang, you're a Hawk. and I said, Coach, if you're going to hire me, screw the Hawks. So I apologized to all my Iowa friends.
Oh, God, I used to like you, Steve.
But a job is a job. I had to get a job.
You had to get a job. Say what you got to say, right?
Yes.
Well, you're a Hawk again now. So.
Yes. And so
I want to hear some Johnny Orr stories.
Okay.
Like we were talking about before. What can you give us?
I can give you a lot. That story is really big. I remember we're at just random stories. We're at Colorado, and I think it was a Justice Thigpen game where he makes a shot at the buzzer, and the court was. You think the Oregon court is bad? This Colorado Buffalo was snorting out different colors. It was really, really bad. It was really bad. Anyway, Justice makes a basket at the buzzer to win.
It was like a running three-pointer.
Yeah, and he kept going into the locker room, into the tunnel, and so it's I think the game was maybe the 1 o'clock game. And so all the hoopla is over, and I'm, getting the guys going and stuff like that in the locker room. And Coach Orr grabs me and says, "Kate, get him out of that shower. We got to go. If we leave now, I could be home for about 5 o'clock, and I got a martini waiting for me at 5 o'clock. And it's like, oh, okay, coach, I'll get on it. And he was on my ass. Get these guys in the cause we were, oh God, it was just hilarious. He was that was a tremendous story. Also, one of my jobs at Iowa State was being assistant basketball coach. One of the parts of in it is, I did the schedule. was the schedule guy.
Okay.
And so you had to, try to get some of those pay games where you'd pay somebody $15,000-$20,000 in rooms or meals or something like that to come up to Ames, not for a home and home, just for a one-shot deal, kind of buying wins and stuff like that. And we weren't at the top of the food chain in the Big Eight. Kansas could bring whoever they wanted in. Oklahoma had a lot of money. Missouri had a lot of money. So we had to just be creative. So anyway, we get Mercer, and Mercer's head coach is Coach Hodges, who coached Larry Bird at Indiana State.
Yep.
And got to the championship game. And he's there on the end of his career, and it's, I think, in Macon, Georgia, and get them to come up. And Coach Hodges just kind of flippantly says, if you keep it under 40, we'll come back the next year. And I said, oh, no problem, Coach. You guys are a good team. That won't be an issue. Well, we're playing the game. And and we're up like 15 or 20. And now we're up 25. Now we're getting close to 30. And we had a sit down way where I sat in the far right next to Frank Randall, the trainer. Then to my left was Rick Wesley. Then to his left was Jim Hallahan. And to his left was Coach Orr.
Yep.
So we had to go through the chain of command. And I'm getting a little nervous at this point because it's not easy to recruit people to come and go play at Ames, and where it's not always balmy and 70 degrees and in the middle of winter. And so where they could go somewhere else. And so I'm like, Rick, it's time to get sub guys in, get Greg Hester in. We need to get some guys in. And Jim would go to, Rick would go to Jim. Jim went to Coach. Then Jim would come back. No, it ain't going to happen. No, it ain't going to happen. No. All right, it's 38. It's like, oh, come on. We've got to get some guys in here. And then finally, Coach Orr, he stands up and avoids the chain of command and goes, Kay, the people didn't come to see Greg Hester play. They came to see Ronnie Bayless and Justice Thigpen make baskets. And it's, okay, no problem, Coach. And so it ends up being like 45.
Okay.
And I'm in that handshaking lane, and I'm like, oh, this is going to suck. And certainly I get to Coach Hodges, and I just go, you're probably not coming back. He goes, you're probably right. And that was the end.
But you guys got some good teams to visit. Indiana, didn't they come? Luke came. Michigan came.
Yes, I think so.
Probably kind of a favor to Coach Orr. Or?
Yes, and we went, and they were pretty good too. And I remember going up there, and that was a big thing to get Coach Orr to go back there. And we had some.
Minnesota.
Minnesota was great.
They were good teams too.
One of the great stories. We're at a lot of stories. We're at Minnesota, and we're down 2, I think, or down. It's like it's dang near over. We make a free throw to cut it. Must have cut it to 2. Dana Jackson was a really good forward from Minnesota. Takes the ball out of bounds, and we're denying, trying to not let anybody get a 5-second call. And they've got that low overhanging scoreboard at Minnesota. And he wounds up and going to throw a touchdown pass, hits the side of the scoreboard.
I never seen that before.
It was unbelievable. Now we get the ball out of bounds underneath the basket. We call our play out of we had a favorite side out of bounds diagram, ran it, got a lob to Justice. He scores and gets fouled, and I think we win by 1. And he makes the free throw and win by 1. And it was just one of those games that, Coach Orr was such a people person. he loved that "Here's Johnny" thing. Loved it.
I'll
Yeah.
bet.
And people loved him. It was just, he'd have nuns in the front seats of talking at some YMCA or VFW hall, and he'd swear a blue streak, and the nuns would just love it.
Mhm.
And say, "Oh, that was Coach Orr. Great guy, really great
So-
guy. Miss him."
Your whole time at Iowa State, I don't. How many years was that?
7 years with Coach Orr and 1 year with Coach Floyd.
Okay, my question for you is how many times did you guys beat Iowa during that streak?
Boy,
Too
not
many.
very many.
Too
Not very
many.
Not
Too
very
many. You guys won at home about all the time, didn't you?
Yeah, my first year was the LaFester Rhodes year,
Oh, Jesus.
which was
Is that the year he went off?
54 freaking points.
Yeah.
And Coach Orr, he calls it, we're at halftime, and there was a little coach's area in Hilton by us before the locker room. And Coach Orr used to always say, "Well, okay, what do you guys think?" And we'd say out, everybody would take a chance. And I said, "Well, surely they're going to guard him in the second half." Because I think he had 34 or 28 in the first half. And he said, "Yeah, obviously we got to come up with something when it doesn't happen." They never did.
Tom Davis always stayed in his fucking 2-3 zone
Yeah.
and leave guys open for 3-pointers. Great pressing.
Yes.
Their press was awesome until you
And they
learned
had
to throw
they had
over
a great
top
team.
of it.
I remember Mike Bourne shoving Jeff Moe out
It was
of
one of
bounds.
the
That
greatest Iowa teams ever you beat.
Yes. It was a unbelievable game, and it was overtime. And then after the game, Rick Wesley almost gets into a fight with the little coach at
Gary Close.
Gary Close at the half court. Meanwhile, because it's 1998, so it's like an election year or coming up or something, and Jesse Jackson is at the game. And
No kidding.
And he wants to meet LaFester. And it's hard to understand LaFester when you and yourself without any crowd, let alone this. So he's trying to meet Jesse Jackson. Jesse's trying to meet him. Just chaos. And so we win the game. It's a big game, and we're all celebrating it out and about in Ames. And I get a call at like 2 or 3 in the morning from the hotel, because I was in charge of the guys on stuff. And at the Gateway Hotel, LaFester, Doc Love, his nickname was Doc Love. Doc Love invited the whole club back to the Holiday Inn there, back to the Gateway Center after the bars were closed. So there was like 200 people show up ready to continue to party. That was the last night the Iowa State men's basketball team ever got to stay at the Holiday at the
I think it wasn't the score like 104 to 102.
Yes, incredible. Incredible game.
One of the most entertaining games you ever seen in your life.
Yes,
unless you were a Hawkeye
incredible.
fan. But
Yeah. Unless you were a Hawkeye fan.
Yes. But they beat us a bunch. I ended up talk about how things change you. We're playing in Iowa City, and I believe Iowa State, we're up 1, and we have the ball. All we got to do is inbounds the ball to win the game, because we're up 1. We have Brian Pearson take it out of bounds from Palmer Pomeroy.
Great guy.
Beyond great guy. Miss him every day. And Rodell Davis tips and steals it or got it. And because they put a taller guy guarding Brian out of bounds, the ball gets tipped. Rodell gets it, scores like with 1 second left to win by 1. And that was the last time me as a coach ever had a 1 or a 2 guard take the ball out of bounds on the side. All my years, 25 years, either the small forward or power forward took the ball out of bounds, because it was not going to let that happen again.
Did you recruit Jeff Hornacek as a walk-on?
I was not there yet. No, but they did.
The greatest walk-on in the history of college basketball.
He played for a Hall of Fame coach, Coach Nikovich, at LaGrange. Great Great player. It was funny with Iowa State. Jeff had a younger brother, Johnny, who was kind of a smart butt and kind of loved being Jeff's brother. And he comes to camp and he's just a wise ass and a little guard. And in camp, you know, the coaches are coaching and we're reffing. We're doing it all at those summer camps. And I'm reffing one of Johnny's games, and he looks at me and says, "Oh, certainly you're not reffing this one." And I kicked him out of the game and kicked him back to the dorms. He just would never give me a break. But he was all right, smart ass.
Yeah. Well, hey, I need to wrap this up.
Okay.
Oh
I
my God.
appreciate all the time. I mean, we could do this for all day long, and I think it would go
Yeah.
great. So many stories, so many good things, and I really do appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk to us today.
Well, it's been my pleasure. I always tell people that, I mean, I was destined to be here. I mean, I truly believe my wife is from Irwin down by Harlan and Denison, and we've been married for over 33 years. And
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. And it's given me the state. I mean, when you're living in that cocoon as a player, you don't have any idea of all the people and the minds that you shape and you affect. I mean, I can't tell you. And I've been as a coach and just as living here, I've been to dang near every city in the state, and you know, a lot from recruiting and just going out and you hear someone. Yeah, I lived in Cresco, Iowa, and my mom was a nurse and she would never work on Thursday or Saturdays because she had to be there for the games. And we were, you know, it's such a great thing to get Mac McCausland and Bob Hogue with KWWL, because that was the first time that ever happened to get the games on TV.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Yeah,
I mean,
Sharm Sherman was doing the color then.
Yes.
He chased Jim Bain off the Purdue court.
But it just is a great place, and it helped me live my life.
I'll have to tell you, once KWL and the state network started to televise the games, and you know, and of course Luke was able to get the Big Ten games set up for Thursday.
Yes.
Saturday, and I will tell you, I was on a bowling league, and unfortunately, we were bowling out Thursday night, and we'd throw our ball, get a strike, and then we'd run to the TV in the bar, watch as much as we could, and then we'd be watching the lane from when I was.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, we had high school basketball practice, and we'd tell the coach, "Hey, practice cannot go to the regular time because we got to get home and see the Hawkeyes play at Bloomington, Indiana."
It's amazing.
And he'd say, "Okay."
Yeah.
You know, 90% of the TV sets in Iowa were watching you play.
Yes.
Every game.
Incredible. And that's you talk about, I hear Ben talk when he talks to you guys and when he's talking to reporters, that when I played, and luckily at Iowa, and even when Coach Orr was at Iowa State, fans came to the game not really because of who you were playing. They came because they wanted to see the Hawks play. They wanted to see the Cyclones play. That's changed now, which I understand that from TV and creative marketing and stuff like that. But boy, that's hard because people didn't get upset when we played Grambling when I was at Iowa State.
Yeah, I really wanted to cover your great coaching career, as a head coach and see why you didn't get a head job and then cover Ben some more, but maybe we'll do that another time.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to, I told my wife and told all my family that when we have our first child, I was going to get out of the Division I rat race because I had talked to enough Division I coaches that didn't see their kids grow up for the first 5, 6, 7 years, and they had to develop their skill and their resume. And so as soon as Jake was born that year, when I was at Iowa State with Coach Floyd, the job at NIACC came open and I applied for it. And Coach Floyd was pissed. He did not want me to go because he wanted me to be, I was offered 3 D1 assistant jobs after that year. and I turned them all down to be the NIACC coach because I wanted to see my kids grow. And it was a good thing because we had twins a couple of years later, and so I got to call off practice and watch them or whatever. But
Well, I got a question for you on that.
Yes.
Did any of them play basketball, and did they grow as tall as you?
Gabe is close. Gabe is probably 6'7", maybe 6'8". Played. They all played. Gracie, my daughter, played volleyball and but didn't play basketball. Didn't have a great experience with basketball from a coach. Then Jake played, and then he found out he had Crohn's. So he quit after playing in high school. Gabe played and tore his ACL his junior year. So he soured on it a little bit, but he played through high school. But then that was it. They were ready to be done.
Did you stay in contact with Ben much after he left you as a player?
I always watched them and would text them from time to time just to see how the team is going and things like that. And but nothing huge because he was going his way. And so not like we were on the phone all the time, but once in a while, yes. And it was great to keep up with them. And mostly we told funny stories. When I would travel. And some of the NIACC alum that played for me during the Ben years, we would talk and laugh and have good fun about, God dang, how about Ben being this good at Northwest Missouri State?
Oh my God!
This good at Drake, and nothing negative, but just was like, wow, who would have thought that?
I loved him in his opening press conference. I tried to get you to go, right?
Yes.
At Iowa, and you said I just
did.
can't make it, and. Steve Doctorman, he says, well, your coaching hero is Tappemeyer or something to coach at wherever he was, Northwest Missouri State or wherever.
What do you think about those kids?
And you know what Ben said? He said, hey, does anybody know here know?
No, what did he say?
He said, does anybody here know there's only 3 players that ever played in 2 Final Fours? He says, does anybody here know that there's only 3 players that ever played in the Final Four before he answered the Tapmeyer story? And I had talked to Tom Kakert and I told him about you. And so Kakert said, oh, yeah, Steve Krafcisin. He goes, he's my first coach like that. Of course, he mentioned his high school coach, too. But.
Yep. I told some friends of mine that they said that that they heard that, and I said, yeah, that's really great, and I'm really proud that Ben mentioned me, but I wish he would have mentioned me before he mentioned AC Earl, but that's okay. I'll forgive him.
Well, you were his coach. AC Earl was probably one of the first players that he idolized.
You're probably right. But no, I think I like the Drake kids. I mean, I think they'll make difference.
They beat Missouri. They beat Kansas State.
I got to see him a bunch. I watched almost every game, and it's amazing how kids get opportunities to perform, and some do well, and some don't, and some don't work out. But boy, what a special year to do what they did and he did, and I think they'll be good enough to compete. Because they know that's the biggest part, I think, why they're there is because they're going to put in Ben's system and philosophy with Ben. They're going to show like a lot of it, like, again, you go back to Lute that had Cal Wolfsburg, Danny Frost, Fred.
Yeah, they were all from Long Beach State.
And Frosty did a hell of a job.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of similars of doing what not everybody's got to learn from scratch, which is, I think, a huge thing.
Right. Well, it looks like he's got 10 roster kids right now.
Yeah.
From what I can tell, and then maybe at least 1 high school commit, and it looks like, according to Chad Lysicle, another one signing any day or committing any day now.
Yeah, the 6'7" swing guy from Oklahoma or wherever he's from, Tate. He's committed to Iowa. They just haven't announced it yet.
Wow.
So,
and I like the Robert Morris kid. I like the K-State kid.
I think the Robert Morris kid is LaFester Rhodes for us.
How
He'll
about
score
that?
52 against Iowa State every time.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. It's amazing where college sports has gone. I never would have guessed. To give you a quick story, when we win the game against Georgetown and we're in the Spectrum somewhere eating before we get on our bus and go fly out, and Bump Elliott, the AD, who was awesome, comes into the little area there and says, "Hey guys, I just want you to know that by going to the Final Four, you've made the University of Iowa athletic department at least $100,000."
Mhm.
And we kind of also
Only?
yeah.
Well, that was a long time ago.
We thought we'd get a little piece of that, but now you're making dang near billions.
Yeah, back
Or
a brand new
millions.
car cost $4,500 back then, Dean. So
Steve,
Yeah,
what's
I know you're
what's
right.
your opinion on the current NIL? You know, the name, image, likeness, and the collectives and stuff. I mean, that's something that wasn't around when you guys, and I'm sure
No.
you would love to have been around when you played.
Well, I think it was the year before I got to North Carolina. The NCAA quit giving them laundry money. You know, gave them like $20 a month or something like that for a while. The money is there, so I understand the thought and the theory, but it's gotten way out of hand. I think, and I'm not an expert at all, but you know, the NIL was supposed to be name, image, and likeness. Well, what does that mean now? Now it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
They're just going to give kids money, and instead of having to, you know, go do events and things like that, or you get a certain percentage of your jersey. You know, I don't know. It's amazing that the amount of money that the universities got from that. But when you always talked about it, we said, well, what about gymnastics? What about, you know, you got to pay for those sports. And what about when a team doesn't do well and doesn't make the NCAA tournament, you know, or something like that? So your scholarship was still worth a whole lot of money. And now they have agents and you have a coach just for that. It's what I think is going to happen is you're going to have, 20 schools that are going to branch off because no one is going to afford it. You and I, how is Northern? They can't compete, and that's not right. If everybody's not on the right playing field, that's not fair. You know, did UCLA gave that Tennessee quarterback $4 million?
Well, if they did, I mean, he signed with them.
I'm not hearing you.
You can't hear us?
Can you hear us, Steve?
Can you hear us?
Hello?
Can you hear us, Steve?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello?
Am I back?
You're back. You're back.
I'm not hearing you.
Okay.
Check your mic. See if your mic is muted.
He can't hear us.
That's true.
Hello?
Yeah.
If I knew sign language, can you hear us?
Can't hear us. Okay.
Well, maybe we should say goodbye then.
I can't hear you.
All right, we're going to say goodbye and end the podcast.
Oh, yeah, he can hear us now.
I can hear you
Oh,
now.
cool,
Sorry.
cool.
I apologize.
Keep talking, Steve.
No problem. I
We're
know that.
listening.
Yeah.
You know?
Steve, Iowa's in this new tournament that I talked about on last night's podcast.
Yeah, I heard you talk
with all
about
these
it.
teams, and one of the teams is UNI. Do you think that the people that are going to put together the little brackets and the pods and however they figure this out for which two teams Iowa plays, that they intentionally put Iowa and UNI against each other?
Unless Iowa would say we don't want to play them.
They might put us against Alford.
Yeah. It'd be interesting
Alford's
to see
in it
because usually in those things I imagine the upper teams can say, hey, which bracket we want to play, and we'll play UNI if it's for the championship game. Or
we won't play the other Big Ten team.
Right.
In.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
right.
there's
not a lot of big
Ten
name teams in the tournament.
But that's great. That's
and
good
it was Fran had scheduled it.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's a good thing. We used to play. We loved that. I mean, I remember my sophomore year we went to San Diego, and when we beat Fran, when he was at Penn. We beat him in overtime, I think, at San Diego
Cool.
to win the Conquistador Classic my sophomore year. Then we went to Dayton for Ronnie's thing and had a great story. We're in between games, night of the games. We beat Cincinnati, and so we're in the hotel, and me and Mike Heller, who was a big from Minnesota, who really transferred to Baylor, and he's still a great guy. And but we were roommates, and it's in the middle of the night, and there's a guy, and like I wake up for some reason, and I wake up, and there's a guy who's probably about 6'5", black shoes, black pants, black jacket, and a huge guy. And I look at him, and he asks me, "Who am I?" I'm like, "Who am I? Who are you? This is our room." And we're like on the 10th floor of this hotel.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking around, and on the TV we had the big old TV where he had it on a swivel in the room at the hotel. And I'm looking over there, and our wallets there and keys. And Mike gets up. Mike's a freshman, and Mike sits up and says, "Well, this is Steve Krafcisin. I'm Mike Heller. We're from the University of Iowa." I said, "Shut up. Be quiet. Be quiet."
Yeah.
And so then the guy walks out, and he goes, "I'm just security checking rooms." And so he leaves. And I called on the security. I said, "Are you having anybody in security in 10th floor?" And they said, "No." Well, there is somebody.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what happened there. And then Ronnie, and a heck of a game. And Ronnie and we still able to win there. Then
Two very important holiday tournaments Lute went to. One was the Lobo Classic.
Yes.
And he seen the pit down there.
Oh,
and that's when he turned to Bobby and he told Bump, "I want an arena just like this."
Oh, that's amazing. That's great.
And then the other one was they went and played in the Rebel Classic against UNLV.
Oh, wow.
And Lute's team wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And Lute hated Jerry Karkanian, and we upset them.
Oh, wow.
With a very unathletic team.
Wow.
Well, let me
Lute
say
pulled
this
it
about
off,
that.
So
I to this day do not like Carver Hawkeye Arena. I wish we were still in the field house or maybe a modern version of the field house. But
that'd be nice.
I miss games in there.
It rocked. It was unbelievable. The roar, what we talked about as players, after our final get out of there, here's what we're going to do. Let's get out to the floor and let's play the game. Coming out of that door, right underneath the old Hawkeye, there in the corner or in the side, and running out there, there was no better feeling in the world. And I think that's when we came. We had one of the anniversaries where we were at the football stadium, and Coach was back, and 40th anniversary maybe or something like that, and then you heard the football team with Highway to Hell or whatever the Thunderstruck, whatever the song is. I said, someone asked, do you miss, playing in competitive? I said, I miss that.
Yeah.
I miss that. They're getting fired up and can't wait. And gosh, we'd have Coach McAndrews or Coach Olson would give purposely long little things about what to do in the game. And we're all on our chair, just can't wait to get the hell out of the locker room to play. And we came shot out like a ball out of heck. And
I hope you're a regular visitor to Hawkeye games.
Yes. My mom didn't like the wooden bleachers at all.
No.
But I told Mom, hey, don't worry about it. It's free. You're okay. And then the people, you hear so many great stories. The people up in the balconies on that steel, throwing Special K little box cereals when they'd introduce me from the balcony. That was just so
How
great.
cool was that?
It was way. And I remember my first year there, I went down to the locker room to see what the visitor, because you never know. I never knew what the visitors' locker room looked like in Iowa City. It was like a small little cell you think you'd see in El Salvador. Really bad. Really,
you don't want to make them feel comfortable.
Yes. And then I remember being at Iowa State with Coach Floyd, and at Carver, the visitors' locker room is pink, or was then.
Mhm.
And so he had me and John Adams and Mark Pearson, our two senior managers. Me and him and me and those two guys, we had a butcher paper, brown butcher paper, all the walls in the locker room, so we couldn't see any pink. Or they had little posters about top 10 assist leaders or whatever, and it was all meant to distract you, from hearing somebody. So it was all brown butcher paper when we were at Iowa State with Coach
Yeah.
Floyd.
I knew that they did that at Kenneck. I had no idea they did that at Carver also. How cool
And
is
maybe
that?
for a while, I don't know if it still does or not, but I remember that was one of the Coach Floyd-isms that blew my mind. But it was like, okay, we'll do
Yeah,
it.
I have never been in either locker room, so I can't tell you.
Yeah, but that was good.
Yeah. I want to thank you, Steve. When I wrote, before McCollum was hired, I wrote this thing that Beth still got her number one guy. McCollum checks all the boxes, and you replied underneath. Me
Yeah.
and you had never talked.
No.
And I said, thank you, Special K. And then we got to talking.
Yeah.
And that's how I told Dean that, hey, I'm talking to him on Facebook. That's how this happened. And this has
Very
been
cool.
a very special day for me. So.
Well, that's great. I appreciate it. It's been great, and I bless every day that I have, and the fan. It's amazing that you'll still people will come out. I'll go in Fairway and Boone, or Target and Ames, or somewhere like that. And aren't you Special K? And and sometimes I'll get frisky and say, no, I'm Steve Waite. And that kind of blows their
Give him
minds a little
throw
bit.
him for a real loop and say you're Greg Stokes.
I'm Greg Stokes, yes. Brad Lowhouse, yes. Golly, man.
All right, well, we really appreciate you giving us the time, and the stories are
problem.
great. And man, and we could do this again and do another 2 hours easily.
Yeah, anytime, just give me a holler. I'll be more than happy to it.
All right,
We heard that, Steve.
Good, absolutely.
We're gonna make you
Absolutely.
keep that promise. So
Absolutely.
you could be with Dean. You could be with Dean every week during the basketball season.
Sure.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
see, now go get me Bobby Hansen and Kevin Boyle and get them.
We
I'll
don't
come.
need
Y'all come on
them.
there.
We don't need them. We got Special
You got me.
K,
Way
the
to
guy
go.
that's attached to our coach.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Appreciate everybody. Thank you for watching. Don't
See
forget
ya.
to subscribe,
Thank you.
hit the like button, and share. Thank you.